Welcome to the Real Estate Niche Show, a show that focuses on top real estate professionals who specialize in different niches of real estate. My name is Ben Kogut. Join me as we dive deep into the professional and personal lives of the experts of the real estate industry. Welcome to the Real Estate Niche Show. I'm your host, Ben Kogut. Today we have Christopher Nelson on the show. He is an experienced technology executive, an entrepreneur, and a real estate investor. He is the co-founder of Wealthward Capital, which is a real estate investment firm with over 3,000 multifamily units. Christopher helps technology employees achieve financial independence through financial education and creating passive income portfolios. He's also finishing his book, From No Dough to IPO. Christopher, welcome to the show. Is there anything that I missed in your bio that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think the one thing I haven't updated is that now we also have a diversified portfolio of mobile home parks. We're at 300 pads and growing, looking to acquire 1,000 in this next year.
Amazing. I definitely want to hear more about that because I know that you historically have been in the multifamily space. You're actually, let's take it even a further step back. You've been historically a technology executive. And so yes. I'd like to start there because I think that's a really unique perspective. And so how did a technology executive get into real estate and passive investing?
Well, and it came from a sudden wealth event. I mean, I think the other thing that's not on that is I've been through 2 IPOs, so initial public offerings, where I worked with companies pre-IPO, was able to get an equity stake in those companies. And then we went through, and the first time, is really what I'm writing about in my book, where I had actually lost a business in the Great Recession and was going to work for these startup companies to generate wealth again. And all of a sudden we had the event. And guess what, Ben? Once we had the event, it was, okay, great. Now what do we do? Because at that point, I was very versed in the stock market. I was very versed in how you do venture investing, but the bond market was broken. So then there's the question, where am I going to get income in my portfolio? And that really then forced the conversation of how do we invest in real estate, especially at that point, we were living in California, high cost of living. All the real estate that we could see was more expensive than we could afford. So that really kicked us off on this journey to find out about syndications, funds, and passive investing.
Got it. I want to keep digging into that. So there may be some listeners who are in a similar situation and they're looking to get started into the passive investing world. So what steps did you take and what are some of the lessons that you've learned along that journey?
So the first step that we took was, let's understand the math. I think it's so easy to get a pro forma, and a document investor summary that gives you the highlight of here's what we're going to deliver. But being a technology executive, it was really, well, how do I prove that out? Because you see in technology a lot of people say, hey, we're going to build this whiz bang gizmo or application, but our due diligence is really, how do you turn that into reality? So we started with the numbers. So we started buying a lot of books that I don't hear a lot of real estate people purchase, like, What Every Real Estate Investor Needs to Know About Cash Flow by Frank Gallinelli, where it really is not a story, but it's really telling you, how do you actually do due diligence, understand what is a conservative assumption, what is not a conservative assumption. And we started in the math. Then we actually started looking at crowdfunding. At that point in time, 2013, 2014, there was crowdfunding that started to be available where we could actually make investments that were, $3,000, $5,000, dollars that we were willing to lose so that we could learn. And that's really how we started investing in our learning, was how do we actually then make an investment? And so it was actually through Fundrise that we made our first investment. Back then, Fundrise was actually doing direct investments into multifamily. They had commercial. They actually had some, BRRR that you could actually invest in as well. So that's where we got started. And then we managed that in the sense of, how do we look at the quarterly reports? How do we vet that against the numbers that we wrote originally? And that gave us a foundation of confidence that we understood what we were investing in. And then we started getting more aware of markets.
Got it. Yes. So really just you started reading, you started just investing. You're like, let's just jump in. I mean, there really is almost no better way than just doing that. I mean, you'll definitely learn a lot just by jumping in and making an investment. But I think that's a really thoughtful and strategic approach. And so when you pivoted away from being an LP investor, did you pivot into being a GP? And if so, and I know that you were in the multifamily space and then eventually in the mobile home park business. So let's talk about that. Why then multifamily, and then why now mobile home parks, and how are they different?
Sure. Well, starting back in the journey from LP to GP was truly, we never envisioned ourselves as GPs. My wife and I were investing our family's equity as we were diversifying out of our tech holdings. And that we also moved to Texas, which accelerated things. So once we landed in Austin in 2017, boots on the ground, there was still a lot of opportunity in the multifamily market. So we got to know operators and we were making investments. And what we were doing is we were super excited. And we're telling our friends back in the Bay Area, oh my gosh, we finally found our way to real estate, what we're looking for. It's here. And we were just sharing open and honest enthusiasm and excitement and the things that we learned. People started raising their hand and saying, we want in. And at first, we were very reticent. We're like, wait a second, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this. But I know, Ben, you talk about, in your podcast, a lot of service. How do you serve your community? My community is technology employees. And what I realized is that a lot of technology employees, number one, aren't realizing that there's no income in their portfolio and how important that is. They also don't understand that real estate is the most powerful income investment you can have because of the 4 different ways you get cash flow or the benefits of it. And then also the tax implication as well. So we then realized we need to actually do this for our community. We need to start creating some done for you investments so that our community can understand what good looks like. There's somebody who on the other end that is them. We've been through this IPO event. We're diversifying into real estate. We've got a lot of healthy scar tissue that we can share with you. And that's truly how we started getting into multifamily.
That's fantastic. I love that you have really picked the niche of being an advocate for tech executives and helping them learn about the benefits of passive income through commercial real estate or through real estate investing in general. And I high five on that. So thanks for being out there and sharing the wisdom around that. And so I'd still like to find out what has been the lessons learned of going from multifamily to mobile home parks.
Well, let me talk about the motivation. The motivation is, we started investing in real estate because we wanted cash flow in our portfolio. We, as technology employees, we have these growth vehicles. We have tons of stock that's growing, but is not sending us checks every quarter or every month. And so when we started investing in multifamily in 2017, we were finding apartment investments where we were able to get 10%, 9%, 8%. As cap rates started compressing and values were increasing, those returns started getting smaller and smaller. So what happened is, while we still have a lot of benefits from investing in multifamily, the cash flow that's so important to our portfolio and the health of our broad portfolio started going away. So we had to start looking at other asset classes. Hence comes mobile home parks. We were very focused on self-storage for a while. Self-storage has good cash flow. However, the supply on the self-storage side can grow immensely versus the supply on the mobile home park side is shrinking. And when all of a sudden we started doing our research on the market and we saw the need for affordable housing, we saw that this asset class is shrinking. And we also saw all of the inefficiencies that are out there. We thought, this is where we need to play. Let's understand who we can partner with.
I think you hit it on the head there. And I think that's probably one of the most interesting asset classes that's actually shrinking for, I feel like that's obvious reasons, but a lot of these properties, the land value has become worth more than the actual asset itself, which is also like another great benefit. Another guest I had on the show, Nick Hakim, you'll definitely want to check out that episode. He's really grown a large portfolio of mobile home parks, and he has a similar philosophy. He's been buying a lot of assets in the Carolinas as well. So somebody definitely you might want to connect with, and there's probably a way to collaborate there. And so I think that's wonderful. And it's another reason why we don't invest in multifamily. It's just the cap rates are just head scratching right now in today's market. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about raising capital, right? Sure. And so what is your strategy with raising capital?
Well, my strategy is find the best investments. I mean, that's it. Like, I want to find institutional quality investments, because I think how I came up in this business of real estate is sort of how I came up in technology, and how I came up in life, which is surround yourself with mentors. So I got in here and I started finding people that were being very successful, that had, incredible integrity. And I said, hey, I would love to be able to add value to you. How can I help? And then they helped me tremendously. But it is truly what they taught me was, if you have a great investment, capital is going to find you. If you have a real rock solid top to bottom underwritten investment, you're not trying to shine up anything that has a little bit of dirt on it, but you really have a rock solid investment, capital is going to find you. So that's where I really started. I also think that, being backed by, equity that we're sitting on and not having to rush for investments has made sure that we can be as picky as we want to be. And then other than that, like, really growing our business has been truly word of mouth, and it's truly delivering value to our investors. And the more that we do that and we try and understand, how do we be as transparent as possible? How do we give the best data, in real-time data as close as possible that we can in the way we're operating, that's just built trust with our investors. And so they want to advocate for us. And then other ways is just, getting on podcasts, letting people know what we're doing, the markets we're operating, the niches that we're operating in, and the way that we underwrite our deals. And then people want to opt into that as well.
I think those are all tried and true methods, but I also, you didn't mention the social media. I mean, I have seen you put quite a bit of effort into your social media, and I follow you, and I think it's really clean and concise. And I'm just curious, what is your thought process with that?
Well, I think social media is truly, I think of it as, brand representation, right? The people who already know me, like, they need to understand what's on my mind. What am I thinking about? It's interesting that I've found, from a, number of leads coming in or people finding out about me, it's truly, comes more from being on other people's podcasts and their audiences than actually, just being on social media in general. But what I do find is that my messages on social continue to build trust with people that already know, like, and trust me. They understand what I'm thinking. And I found that it's, just allowed me to build deeper relationships and also get feedback on what we're thinking. I mean, the one thing I love about social media is, people who then DM me and say, oh my gosh, here's what you're thinking. What about this? Or, hey, here's what you're thinking. Have you thought about this? It helps really generate ideas and a conversation with our investors.
Yep, totally agree. And I think you're on the right track. And so we'll wrap up at the end. We'll give everybody the links on how they might be able to follow you and learn about what you're up to. And I want to actually take one quick step backwards, because I'd like to know, in today's market, how you've been able to find deals.
Well, so finding deals in today's market. So two things. Number one is, I think on the mobile home side is really, we wanted to go into secondary markets where there was considerable growth. And then we also wanted to find mobile home parks where they had geographic co-centricity. Is that right? They're close to each other geographically. But they're also smaller parks, because right now the big boys, a lot of people are fighting over 100 pads or more. We came up with a blue ocean strategy that said, well, what if we found 100 pads in 3 parks that are, within a mile from each other? Let's do something a little different. So that's where we had an opportunity to see where people weren't, and there was a lot of opportunity, and that's where we're doubling down right now. And that's where we see a ton of opportunity in the North Carolina market. Here in Austin, in San Antonio, where we did 2 multifamily transactions this last year, it is relationships, relationships, relationships. And you have to get something that is off market, and you also have to get something that is, has the right numbers behind it. Like, the numbers truly have to make sense. And this is where we had to kiss a lot of frogs and say, no, 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 no. But again, I work with a team where they're hyper local, and we're not afraid to turn away a lot of deals to find the right ones.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Looking at a lot of deals, kissing a lot of frogs, and building those relationships to find those off-market opportunities is definitely a recipe for success. All right, so now we're going to keep pivoting forward. I know that you have you're in the process of writing a book called No Dough to IPO, and I'd love to first find out, what's been the lessons learned in writing this book, and what's the book going to be about?
I think the biggest lesson learned from writing a book is it takes what it takes. And as an author, as somebody who's spent time with my content, I hated hearing that as I went through it. But it's true that you have to, ideas marinate, like a good, brisket, right? You got to marinate this thing over time, and it takes time, and you have to keep thinking about it and working it, getting input. And so that's, I think, one of the biggest lessons learned that I've had from the book. It's brought me a ton of joy, as well as the challenges. And what I really wanted to do, and this is all about our community, is not enough people in technology talk about how do you build a tech career, how do you go to work for equity, and then how do you go and invest that in a way that is sustainable, that can actually then support your family and build a financial fortress for you and your family. And so that's where this book is really sort of the first of a trilogy that I'm writing. This one, No Dough to IPO, is really, how do people look at the skills that they have and actually look at investing that in the right companies? You hear a lot of noise in the media of, wow, it's so hard to make money in tech. And it's not true. Quite honestly, somebody with the right skill set could go to a Google right now, could be making $150,000 salary, have that matched in equity, and get liquidity in the first month. Like, there's a lot of opportunity in technology. People just look at the highest risk, highest reward. It's like if somebody came to you and said, there's no money in real estate. I've tried to do 3 ground up deals with no experience, and they've never worked out. That's exactly what it's like. And so, from No Dough to IPO is really breaking down and giving people an investor's lens, having them look at themselves as an asset, and how do they actually then mark that to market, understand their value, and then go into this negotiation for tech equity in a strategy that's going to see them win. And again, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a, how do I apply this over my career so that I can accelerate my time to financial independence?
Love it. What a practical and niche subject. So thank you for, I love that,
niche-y,
man.
Yeah.
I love the niches. It's all about that. Awesome. And so let's keep kind of pivoting a little bit forward. I'd love to know more about you. And so one of the questions I love to ask people is, how do you, either professionally or personally, how do you like to invest in yourself?
So I'd say, personally, how I invest in myself is, is a startup routine in the morning, is carving out time just for me every morning. That does mean getting up super early at 4:30 and being able to have some quiet time by myself, some exercise time. But that is so important, to invest time in yourself, in your physical health, in your mental health, especially in a lot of the stressors that we have today. So important. And then I would say professionally, it's really training, right? Is I have spent a considerable amount of money over the past few years as an executive to pursue executive training, whether that's how do I present, how do I speak, or whether that's actually how do I, build a business, a capital raising business? How do I go and invest and take courses and learn that, or learn more in real estate underwriting? But I invest in myself because I realize that, I'm only as good as the training that I've received. I always remember back to Denzel Washington, Man on Fire. There's two types of people, trained and untrained. So investing in training for yourself, I think, is super important.
That's I'd actually like to have a follow-up to that. What is there any training in particular that you might recommend?
I don't know if anybody has read Rob Bardsley's book on underwriting for multifamily, but he also has a course out there. And I just think that Rob is somebody that I've known over the years, and he has just chosen to become an expert in multifamily underwriting. But the fundamentals of underwriting have also translated for me into mobile home park underwriting and anything else that you do. And so he has an online course available that I think has tremendous value that I would recommend.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And next question is, how do you like to invest in the community?
So I've mentioned that my work right now is really investing back in the technology community. And I do see myself, as I eventually transition out of working in technology, is I want to work in my community full time, really in this focus of how do we coach people up on technology careers and managing money. And so later this year, I'll be launching, Tech Career and Money Talk, where I just want to start facilitating this conversation. It'll be 2 episodes a week. One is really on career development. The other one is on money, everything from, budgeting to how do you buy a home in a high cost of living area, to NFTs, crypto, and of course, tons of real estate, but really just having a broad conversation, getting it out there, and then focusing on education. But I really want to be able to speak into my community technology employees. And then I think from a, and quite honestly, it's from a world perspective, because I have a belief that if I can help 1,000 technology employees get to financial independence, they will want to solve the world's biggest problems. You think about, the climate, you think about, plastics, you think about all this stuff. Technology employees want to fix stuff. They don't just want to sit idly by. They want to go and do things, and they want to contribute. So my personal belief is, let's get them financially independent, getting those checks from some passive income producing real estate, so they can then go spend their time solving the world's biggest problems.
Love it. Definitely agree with all of what you just said there. Next question is, how do you define the word success?
I define success as, being at peace with yourself and, the impact that you're creating in the world. Like, I think that we're here not to just sit idly by and get fed bonbons, but we're here for a purpose, to make an impact. And so I think that when we're at peace with doing that, meaning that we're not going to be like, I believe life is a combination of blessings and battles. But to me, if I can sit back in the evening and say, wow, it was a great day. I had some battles, I had some blessings, but I'm at peace with the impact that I've delivered today, whether that's, teaching something to my sons, or educating a technology employee, or, helping my team at work succeed, and accomplishing our goals, then I feel great. I feel successful.
Awesome. Love that definition. Thanks so much for sharing that. Awesome. Let's keep moving forward here as we're starting to wind things down. I'd love to know if you had, if people want to get a hold of you and reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
I'd say the best way is go to thrivecommunity.fund. We'll put the link there, but that is our latest mobile home park offering. And there you can get a free webinar where you can just get an overview of what we're doing in North Carolina. And then in that email, there'll be an opportunity to get a meeting with me, and we can get a chance to meet face to face and get to know each other.
Awesome. Are there any other ways that you might want people to reach out to you? Because I know you have the Wealthward Capital website. Maybe anything you want put in the show notes. Now is a great time to do that.
So I was going to say, wealthward.com. So that is our website if you want to understand what we're doing at Wealthward. And then, going live, we're going to have Tech Careers and Money Talk. That's going to be a brand new list where it's fully focused on education of tech careers and money. So if you have any interest in learning about how to go to work for technology, like one of the things I think is so important is that many people don't understand that normal W-2 employees, accountants, can go and make tremendous amounts working for equity. I've seen it myself. I know them where they're working in accounting departments, have done really well, have followed a CFO to another pre-IPO company, and they're going to crush it. You can too. So anybody who wants to learn about tech careers and money talk, that'll be available also.
Awesome. Can't wait to check that out. Are there any other parting words or words of wisdom that you'd like to share as we start winding things down?
I'd say the words of wisdom. Number one is thank you so much, Ben, for having me on, because I do think that niches are so important. And I think that for us as investors, any investors listening in, is look at the niches right now. Right. I think that, the steak and potatoes that is multifamily will be there. It is at the tail end of a cycle right now, but cash flow and real value is still available in niches. Get educated, find the right people to work with, and make some investments, because there are opportunities happening right now you don't want to pass by.
Love it. Great advice. Wonderful words of wisdom. Christopher, thanks again for coming on the Real Estate Niche Show and sharing all this wonderful wisdom and advice. I can't wait to read the book and see you as you continue to grow your niche, and congrats on all of your success and all the positive impact that you're having in the tech community and elsewhere. And hey, we're both here in Austin. Let's connect face to face sometime soon.
I'm looking forward to that.
And on that note, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you. Thanks for listening to the Real Estate Niche Show.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Real Estate Niche Show. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me or the show, you can follow me on Instagram at Ben Kogut and at The Real Estate Niche Show. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.